Welcome to What the
Figs!
Shakespeare. Today in the studio we are investigating Act 1, Scene 3 of Romeo and Juliet. Has the nurse just lost her filter?
Yeah, or is she just a little bit overexcited by the potential marriage to the super fit Paris?
Super fit.
Hashtag fit as. Beep, 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 beep. Newsflash, welcome to What the Fish Shakespeare Studios. We're going to be looking at key issues of scenes and at the relationships between the characters.
To demystify and work out what the fish is going on.
Why does Shakespeare introduce the nurse?
And why don't we just crack on with the story instead?
And why does her rant tell us that these two kids are fated to die? Okay, right, so what's happening in this actual scene then? What's going on?
Act 1, Scene 3.
Act
So
1,
we're
Scene
looking
3.
at the meeting the three Capulet women, I suppose, for the first time. So you've got Lady
Juliet.
Capulet, Juliet, and the nurse.
So what's happening in this scene specifically is Lady Capulet has come in and she's asking the nurse to help her to sell the marriage to Paris to Juliet. That's what's happening in this scene. The triumvirate of doom.
They're doomed.
Why is the nurse signalling that Juliet is doomed? What's that all about? Well, there's three things that signal this, and the nurse talks about them all. Number one
Is the idea of an earthquake.
yes. So in Shakespeare's time, if you experience an earthquake, there's a bit of bad fortune in that. That's pretty unlucky to experience an earthquake. And, so that already, there's a whole set of issues that Shakespeare audience would have gone, oh my God, she lived through an earthquake.
Yeah.
She's doomed.
Her life has been touched by an earthquake,
Yeah.
which
That's massive.
bad luck.
Yeah.
Bad luck.
You've got to think about in this day and age, that's not exactly a big thing. Well, it is a big thing if you're in an earthquake, obviously, but for us, we don't go, oh my gosh, we're in an earthquake. That's not a thing for us, but it was a thing in Shakespeare's time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Secondly, we're looking at the idea that Juliet was born on Lammas Eve.
Yes, Lammas Eve was, it's a bit like an early harvest festival. And it's basically when they slaughtered the lambs and had the first crop of wheat. So it's all about the loss of innocence.
So Juliet is seen as the innocent, and with this marriage being the innocent being led to slaughter.
So that's a big thing. And Lammas Eve, if you were born on Lammas Eve, it's a bit like being born on Friday the 13th, and it happens to be Halloween, and that basically means you're doomed. You're doomed. So there you go. That's number two. Number three. It's all tied up with the nurse. This one. Yeah.
It's the fact that she was brought up with a wet nurse.
Yeah, and that already means there's some issues there, because she would have been brought up really with the wet nurse giving her a lot of the idea in Shakespeare's time was that she would imprint some of her personality onto Juliet. So she's had quite a strange upbringing.
She's got two mothers, hasn't she?
Yeah.
In effect, she's got the DNA of her mother and then this personality coming through from the nurse, who's a very different lady.
And she would have been literally brought up with the wet nurse outside the city. So her mother wouldn't have had that much to do with her when she was really little. Shakespeare uses her as a device. So she's not just a character, she's a dramatic device to get the information out. So if she didn't have this broken filter where she just apparently had verbal diarrhea and was talking utter rubbish, then Shakespeare would have to find some other way to get this information out. Otherwise, we don't know that Juliet is doomed, and that whoever gets with her, which is Romeo, who's a complete loser, in my opinion. Come to that in another episode. But if we don't do it that way, he's got to find some other way of doing it.
I think it makes it more complicated if he just gets it out in one big spiel like he does in this scene with the nurse. It's all there. It's all done and calculated and ready for us to then understand what happens next.
But also, he does it in such a way where he will ramp up the entertainment. So you got to remember what Shakespeare's audience was like. They were a raucous bunch sitting in the Globe Theatre or theatres like.
They'd love a character like that who was rude and base and you know.
So they'd like all that kind of stuff, and you've got to remember the kind of place it was. There would have been a lot of chatting. There'd be a lot of getting involved with social interactions and stuff like that. They'd be buying beer. They'd be buying whatever kind of things you have instead of popcorn, whatever. There'd be folk picking pockets. There'd be folk having a fight. There'd
Prostitutes
be prostitutes in the
gallery.
cut. Yeah, there'd be all sorts of stuff. So they've got to compete for stuff. So to get this really important information about the play across to the audience, the ones that are listening, he uses this character to get it all across, so that they turn around. Yeah. To get them to pay attention.
How can you engage with us?
Right. Well,
Let's have a look at
number
that.
Number one. Subscribe that bad boy.
Subscribe
it. Yeah. And
leave a comment.
Leave comments
below.
down here.
Down there.
Yeah. So if you've got any thoughts on what we've said, it's only our opinion
Yeah.
about what we're thinking about this scene. We do this with each of our videos. So think about what you thought about what we were saying. Do you agree with it? If you don't agree with it,
yeah. So why don't you agree with it? Could you give us a suggestion as to other ways that we can look at it and thoughts that you've got on it?
And if you stick that all down below, that'd be brilliant, because then we can have that conversation. You guys can be having a conversation. We can be having a conversation with you in the comment thread. That'd be fantastic. So is there anything that we missed?
Yeah, I mean, this is the kind of stuff that we would do before a rehearsal process. We do all this kind of research, then get it into the rehearsal room and get it back on its feet. And that's when things can change. We might change our opinion on the research that we've done because we find other things within the text. So it's really helpful to kind of have these conversations beforehand.
We might discover in the doing that we throw most of that out the window just so we can play the text. This is important stuff to kind of figure out so that you can get in the room and actually get into the nitty-gritty of actually doing the text.